Have you ever wondered why some movies seem too stupid to work but somehow become legends? Here's the truth. In Hollywood, stupidity is an art form, and nobody paints a better picture than the people behind the world's wildest parody films. Forget Oscar winners and deep dramas for a moment. These are the films that prove idiocy can be next-level genius. Ready to question your own taste in movies? Good, because what you're about to see will make you look at comedy and your own sense of humor in a totally new way. Airplane, 1980. Let's get one thing straight. If you think comedy has to be smart to be legendary, you've never watched Airplane. This movie takes everything you know about disaster flicks, stuffs it into an overhead compartment, and crashes it headfirst into a wall of gags, puns, and one-liners that are so dumb, you start to think the filmmakers might be actual geniuses. Released in 1980, Airplane isn't just a parody, it's a full-scale attack on seriousness itself. The setup is simple. A former fighter pilot with a tragic past boards a flight that quickly goes off the rails when the entire crew is knocked out by bad food. Suddenly, it's up to our reluctant hero to land the plane with a little help from his oddball co-pilot and a cabin full of passengers who are more cartoon than human. If this sounds familiar, that's because it is. Airplane borrows its entire skeleton from a straight-faced thriller called 0 Hour, then fills every joint with pure comedy cartilage. But here's where it gets wild. The creators, Jim Abrahams and the Zucker brothers, treat every line as a chance for a joke. Visual gags come at you so fast, you'll miss 3 while you're laughing at 1. There's a doctor who asks if you like movies about gladiators, a little boy sipping coffee with the confidence of a businessman, and Leslie Nielsen, who looks you dead in the eye and delivers lines with the seriousness of a judge. The result? A comedy so relentless it becomes exhausting, in the best way. Airplane didn't just make fun of disaster movies. It made fun of how seriously Hollywood took itself. It turned the dumbest ideas into high art. And in doing so, it rewired audiences forever, teaching everyone that there's a very fine line between brilliance and sheer idiocy. By the time you've watched Airplane, you'll start to wonder if dumb is actually just another word for daring. Monty Python and the Holy Grail, 1975. Sometimes, you need a movie so silly, so aggressively stupid, that it loops all the way back to genius. That's Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yes, it's British, but this movie has been adopted by Hollywood, quoted by comedians across the world, and worshipped by anyone who ever wanted to see a knight lose both arms and keep fighting anyway. On paper, it's a retelling of the King Arthur legend. In reality, it's a wild, unstoppable series of sketches, each one dumber than the last, all stitched together by a group of comedians who made it their mission to poke holes in everything you thought you knew about storytelling. King Arthur, with his invisible horse and coconut hooves, leads a band of misfit knights across a kingdom that's barely held together by logic. There are killer rabbits, a French castle with the world's most ridiculous guards, and a knight who literally calls losing his limbs just a scratch. But the magic is in how far the film is willing to go. The jokes don't just make fun of knights and legends. They take a flamethrower to the idea that stories have to make sense. One minute you're watching a full-on sword fight, the next you're listening to a historian get stabbed by a passing knight, and the next you're hearing about an enchanter named Tim. The movie's budget was so low they couldn't afford real horses, so they leaned in and turned that into one of the film's best running gags. Yet behind the dumb, there's something sharp. The comedy is self-aware, packed with sly jabs at how audiences watch movies, how heroes are made, and why rules are meant to be broken. Monty Python and the Holy Grail became a rite of passage for every comedy fan, proof that when you embrace nonsense, you just might stumble into something unforgettable. Spaceballs, 1987. There are parodies, and then there's Spaceballs, a movie so committed to stupidity that it practically writes its own instruction manual for how to make dumb jokes look like high art. Mel Brooks saw Star Wars, laughed, and then decided the only way to honor its impact was to completely tear it apart and rebuild it out of wisecracks, silly hats, and self-aware comedy. If you've ever wanted to see Darth Vader get upstaged by a guy in a giant plastic helmet, Spaceballs is your golden ticket. What makes this movie tick is its absolute refusal to take anything, even itself, seriously. You've got Lone Star, a hero with less direction than a broken compass, and his half-man, half-dog sidekick Barf, who redefines the word loyal. On the villain side, Dark Helmet is the kind of bad guy who's both hilarious and oddly relatable, delivering threats with a whine and somehow making incompetence look stylish. There's also President Scroob, Yogurt the Wise Mentor, and Princess Vespa, who's so over the top that she makes space royalty look like a school play. Every scene is a setup for something absurd. Mel Brooks pulls off one meta joke after another, roasting not just space adventures, but also movie merchandising, cliches, and even the act of watching movies itself. At one point, the characters watch a videotape of their own film to find out what happens next. Spaceballs is the rare kind of comedy that breaks every wall, including the fourth, and then sets up shop in the rubble. But don't let the stupidity fool you. Underneath the gags, there's a smart sense of timing and an obvious love for the films it's spoofing. Spaceballs became a cult classic because it's honest about what it is, a monument to the idea that the dumbest jokes, when played with total confidence, become unforgettable. So if you've ever taken your favorite movie too seriously, Spaceballs is here to remind you, sometimes the best way to love something is to laugh at it until you can't breathe. The Naked Gun, from the Files of Police Squad, 1988. If Airplane proved that disaster movies were ripe for parody, The Naked Gun set its sights on the crime genre and decided to absolutely annihilate it with jokes. Leslie Nielsen's Lieutenant Frank Drebin is the kind of cop who stumbles into heroics by accident, turns every police cliché upside down, and still manages to get the job done, at least, sort of. This movie is a slapstick tornado where every single frame is another excuse for something ridiculous to happen. The genius of The Naked Gun isn't just in its barrage of physical comedy and wordplay, it's in the way the actors play every scene as if it's dead serious. Drebin walks through a world where banana peels are more dangerous than bullets, bad guys are more likely to trip over their own plans, and chaos is just a normal part of the job. The jokes come so fast you almost need a pause button to catch them all. Whether Drebin is investigating a plot against the Queen or accidentally causing more trouble than he solves, Nielsen keeps a poker face so strong you start to believe he might be the only sane person in the room. But it's not just Drebin who gets to shine. Every character, from the sidekicks to the villains, throws themselves into the madness with total commitment. Pratfalls, puns, running gags, and sight jokes fill every corner of the movie. O.J. Simpson's Norberg gets put through a slapstick meat grinder so relentless that you can't help but laugh at his bad luck. The chemistry between cast members is so on point that even the dumbest joke lands like a punchline from a stand-up routine. The Naked Gun stands as proof that when you treat stupidity with complete seriousness, the result is comedy gold. It's the kind of movie that dares you not to laugh, and most people fail spectacularly. If you want a masterclass in how dumb humor can become legendary, this is the movie to watch with a big group and an even bigger bowl of popcorn. Kungpow, Enter the Fist, 2002. Imagine taking a forgotten kung fu movie, redubbing every single line, inserting yourself as the star, and then dialing the stupidity up until the film barely makes sense. That's Kungpow. Enter the Fist, a movie so committed to the bit that it becomes a weird sort of genius in the process. Steve Udikirk, the mastermind behind this insanity, didn't just parody martial arts films. He set out to break every rule of filmmaking and turn dumb into a superpower. The setup is jaw-droppingly simple. The Chosen One, a clueless hero, sets out on a quest for revenge against the evil Master Pain, also known as Betty. But that's just the excuse for the wildest ride you'll ever take through the world of chopsaki cinema. Udikirk digitally inserts himself into the original 1970s movie footage, then lets loose with a script that is equal parts slapstick, cartoon logic, and rapid-fire gags. Characters have voices that make no sense. Plot points disappear mid-scene, and every single fight scene is a chance to make the audience laugh at something totally unexpected. But what really sets Kungpow apart is how fearless it is about being dumb. There are talking animal sidekicks, villainous henchmen with unpronounceable names, and running jokes that get funnier the more they repeat. The film's love of bad dubbing, over-the-top sound effects, and random asides is so sincere you can't help but get sucked into its strange little world. This isn't just parody, it's a love letter to every cheap action flick you ever saw late at night and wondered if you'd dreamed up. And yet, beneath all the absurdity, there's real respect for the source material. Udikirk knows exactly what makes kung fu movies fun, and he celebrates every weird, wild detail. Kungpow, Enter the Fist is proof that when you go all in on dumb, you might just stumble into brilliance. If you want a movie that makes you question reality and laugh uncontrollably while doing it, this is one you gotta see. UHF 1989. There's Weird. And then there's Weird Al Yankovic running his own TV station. UHF is a comedy fever dream, the kind of film that feels like it was created on a dare during an all-night marathon of Saturday morning cartoons and infomercials. Released in 1989, it tanked at the box office but later found a rabid cult following, and it's easy to see why. This isn't just a parody of television, it's a celebration of every ridiculous, low-budget show you ever surfed past as a kid. Yankovic plays George Newman, an underachiever with a head full of daydreams and absolutely no business sense, who somehow winds up in charge of a failing UHF station. Instead of playing it safe, he fills the lineup with wild, totally nonsensical shows. Conan the Librarian, Wheel of Fish, Gandhi 2, and a kids show where the main character gets blasted with a fire hose. It's sketch comedy crammed into a single movie, and every skit pushes the envelope of just how dumb a joke can be while still making you laugh. What keeps UHF from flying off the rails is its pure commitment to the absurd. The parodies are fast and furious, targeting everything from Hollywood action blockbusters to local TV commercials. Michael Richards, years before Seinfeld, gives a completely unhinged performance as Stanley Spadowski, a janitor-turned-children's show host who treats mop buckets and bologna sandwiches like they're the stuff of legend. Every moment is played with straight-faced sincerity, which only makes the silliness shine even brighter. UHF never apologizes for being dumb. In fact, it doubles down on stupidity at every opportunity, and somehow it works. Over the years, it's become a badge of honor for fans of truly weird comedy, a film that reminds us that sometimes the biggest laughs come from the wildest ideas. If you want a movie that feels like channel surfing inside a madman's mind, UHF is a must-see. Hot Shots, 1991. If Top Gun ever made you roll your eyes, Hot Shots is the film you never knew you needed. This movie takes everything about action films, especially the ones with slow-motion beach volleyball, and cranks the nonsense up to 11. Released in 1991, it's a rapid-fire barrage of gags, visual jokes, and wordplay, with Charlie Sheen delivering a performance so deadpan it almost feels like a dare. Hot Shots follows Topper Harley, a troubled pilot with a laundry list of personal issues and a family legacy to escape. The plot is really just an excuse for an endless parade of parodies, mostly taking aim at Top Gun, but also dragging in bits of Rocky, Dances with Wolves, and every other blockbuster it can find. The film's creators, Jim Abrahams, also behind Airplane, know the formula: set up a serious scenario, then obliterate it with the dumbest possible punchline. What makes Hot Shots unforgettable is how it never lets you catch your breath. One moment, Topper is having a dramatic flashback. The next, he's frying bacon on a lover's stomach, or dogfighting in a plane with a literal target painted on it. The cast is completely on board, playing everything straight no matter how unhinged the scene becomes. Lloyd Bridges, in particular, is a scene stealer as the totally incompetent Admiral Benson. But beneath the barrage of silliness is a loving poke at Hollywood's biggest action cliches. Hot Shots doesn't just make fun of its inspirations, it celebrates them by blowing them out of proportion. It's a movie that's so dumb it circles right back to smart, a high-wire act of stupidity that manages to stick the landing every single time. For pure, undiluted parody energy, Hot Shots is essential viewing. Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery, 1997. What do you get when you take James Bond, strip away the cool and the class, and replace it with teeth, chest hair, and an unshakable belief in your own mojo? You get Austin Powers, the spy who made stupidity into a superpower. Mike Myers' 1997 comedy is a velvet-covered wrecking ball aimed right at the heart of every spy movie you ever loved or hated. Austin Powers is a secret agent from the swinging 60s, frozen in time and thawed out in the very uncool 90s. He's awkward, ridiculous, and somehow the best man for the job. Every gadget is dumber than the last. Every catchphrase is designed to get stuck in your head for weeks, and the world he moves through is one long, unbroken riff on British spy tropes. But the film's real secret weapon is Dr. Evil, also played by Myers, a villain so incompetent and petulant, he makes every Bond bad guy look like a mastermind. What sets Austin Powers apart is its commitment to the bit. Every set, costume, and joke is lovingly crafted to be both groovy and painfully out of date. The supporting cast, from Elizabeth Hurley's cool-headed Vanessa to Seth Green's permanently annoyed Scott Evil, is all in on the chaos. Whether it's a henchman getting run over at a snail's pace or a villain monologuing his own defeat, every gag is milked for maximum effect. Austin Powers made parody cool again, inspiring a wave of imitators and reminding everyone that sometimes being dumb is a choice, and sometimes it's a calling. Its humor is broad, its style is loud, and its heart is surprisingly big. It's a film that winks at the audience and dares you not to laugh. Good luck with that. Scary Movie 2000. By the late 90s, horror movies had become a joke, so the Wayans brothers decided to turn that joke into a full-blown comedy event. Scary Movie is exactly what it sounds like. A movie that's not just dumb, but intentionally, proudly, gloriously dumb. It throws every horror cliché you can imagine into a blender, then serves up the results with a wink and a smirk. The story is a wild mashup of Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and any other scary movie you'd find on late-night cable. Teens are stalked, secrets are revealed, and nothing makes sense for more than 5 minutes at a time. The plot, if you can even call it that, is just a vehicle for every joke the writers could possibly think of, from slapstick chases to the world's worst police work. But what really makes Scary Movie stand out is how fearless it is about going for the dumbest possible laugh. Every scene is overloaded with gags, puns, and sight jokes, each one more ridiculous than the last. The cast, led by Anna Faris, throws themselves into the madness with such total commitment that even the most absurd moments feel almost believable. Scary Movie became a pop culture phenomenon, launching a whole series and setting a new standard for how far you could push a parody. It's a movie that celebrates stupidity in all its forms, and somehow, that's exactly what makes it smart. If you want to know what it looks like when comedy takes a sledgehammer to its own rules, this is the film to watch. Robin Hood, Men in Tights, 1993. When Mel Brooks decided to take on the Robin Hood legend, he didn't just poke fun at one story. He took 1,000 years of folklore, fed it through a joke machine, and fired the results at the screen with reckless abandon. Robin Hood, Men in Tights is parody at its most gleefully silly, a film that proves you don't need a big budget or a serious hero to create a classic. The movie follows Cary Elwes as Robin, a swashbuckler with a heart of gold and a brain full of jokes. He's joined by a cast of merry men who are anything but ordinary. Little John, who's not so little. A Chew, who's always sneezing, and Blinken, a blind lookout who never sees anything coming. Together, they take on the evil Sheriff of Rottingham and the cartoonishly villainous Prince John, using every trick in the parody book. Men in Tights is packed with sight gags, one-liners, and musical numbers that make no sense and don't care who knows it. Brooks isn't afraid to break the fourth wall, reference other movies, or toss in a joke just because it made him laugh. The result is a film that's as much about the joy of making fun of things as it is about telling a story. What keeps it all together is the cast's commitment to the silliness. Elwes plays Robin with the same earnestness he brought to The Princess Bride, and everyone else is right there with him, ready to do anything for a laugh. The movie became an instant cult favorite, beloved by anyone who ever wished the world took itself a little less seriously. For pure, unfiltered fun, Robin Hood, Men in Tights hits the bullseye every time. Mcruber, 2010. When a parody is based on a parody, you know you're entering deep waters of stupidity. And Mcruber is a movie that cannonballs straight in. Originally a short skit from Saturday Night Live spoofing MacGyver, Mcruber takes everything dumb about action heroes and turns it up until the speakers blow. Will Forte stars as the world's least competent special agent, a guy who'd rather rip out a car stereo for a mission than actually save anyone. The plot is what you'd expect from any 80s-style action movie, only dumber. Mcruber is dragged out of retirement to stop his nemesis, the flamboyantly evil Dieter von Kunth, from blowing up Washington. Along the way, Mcruber recruits a team, then accidentally gets them all killed in the most absurd way possible. From there, he bumbles, bluffs, and muscle flexes his way through one disaster after another, relying on sheer luck and an almost magical belief in duct tape. What sets Mcruber apart is its complete lack of shame. The film makes no attempt to be cool or clever. Instead, every moment is played with total conviction. Forte's performance is a masterclass in committed idiocy. He delivers every line as if Mcruber's the only real hero left on Earth. Kristen Wiig and Ryan Philippe round out the cast, both playing the straight role against Mcruber's tornado of nonsense. The action is big. The jokes are even bigger, and nothing is sacred. Mcruber's jokes go from lowbrow to outright absurd, but the dedication behind every punchline gives it surprising staying power. It may have bombed in theaters, but it quickly earned cult status, becoming a secret handshake for comedy fans everywhere. If you want proof that dumb can be genius with the right level of commitment, Mcruber is your golden ticket. Galaxy Quest, 1999. Galaxy Quest is that rare parody that not only makes fun of its source material, but also manages to outdo it in heart, wit, and sheer entertainment. What starts as a joke about washed-up actors from a cheesy science fiction TV show turns into a loving send-up, and sometimes even a celebration of everything fans love about space adventures. Imagine the cast of a Star Trek knockoff suddenly being mistaken for real heroes by actual aliens, and you've got the setup. Tim Allen, Sigourney Weaver, and Alan Rickman lead the crew of has-beens who find themselves at the center of a galactic war. The actors are clueless, the stakes are real, and the aliens are just earnest enough to make everything feel weirdly sincere. The jokes come from both directions, poking fun at obsessive fans and the egos of actors, while also delivering genuine moments of bravery and teamwork. Every fish-out-of-water gag lands perfectly, but the movie never loses sight of its affection for the world it's parodying. What makes Galaxy Quest so smart is its balance. It delivers slapstick and physical comedy for the die-hard fans, but it also throws in meta jokes, running gags, and moments that are weirdly touching. Alan Rickman's long-suffering actor, doomed to repeat his catchphrase forever, is hilarious and heartbreaking all at once. The effects are solid, the adventure is real, and the jokes land whether you've ever watched a sci-fi show or not. In the end, Galaxy Quest is more than a parody. It's a love letter to every fan who ever believed in something a little too much. It's proof that you can laugh at the things you love, and maybe even love them more because of it. For anyone who's ever quoted a show or worn a costume, this movie is required viewing. Walk Hard, The Dewey Cox Story, 2007. The music biopic has always been an easy target, but Walk Hard, The Dewey Cox Story doesn't just take a shot at the genre, it builds a rocket, loads it with dynamite, and blows the whole thing sky high. Starring John C. Reilly as Dewey Cox, a rock star who seems to stumble into every possible cliché and tragedy, this film is a greatest hits collection of dumb, brilliant, and sometimes unexpectedly heartfelt moments. Dewey's story is a parody of every rise and fall musician you've ever seen. He loses his brother, battles substance abuse, falls in and out of love, experiments with every genre from rock to disco, and somehow reinvents himself every decade, all while staying hilariously clueless. Every line is a setup for a joke. Dewey rips through musical eras with the subtlety of a tornado, and every step on his career path is mined for comedy gold. What makes Walk Hard stand out isn't just the avalanche of gags. It's the way the movie takes itself just seriously enough to sell every absurd plot twist. Reilly throws himself into the role with total abandon, delivering a performance that's as musically legit as it is ridiculous. The songs themselves are spot-on parodies, catchy enough to be real hits and dumb enough to make you laugh out loud. Director Jake Kasdan and producer Judd Apatow fill the film with cameos, clever references, and more running jokes than you can count. Walk Hard is packed with energy, never slowing down, and never running out of dumb ideas that somehow seem totally genius. By the end, you'll realize you've not only watched a brilliant parody, you've also sort of fallen for Dewey Cox himself. That's the beauty of these films. Dumb on the surface, pure genius underneath. So which ridiculous parody is your go-to when you just want to laugh and forget the rules? Drop your picks in the comments, hit subscribe for more off-the-wall movie madness, and share this with someone who needs a good laugh. Remember, in a world obsessed with being serious, sometimes the smartest move is to embrace the silly. Stay bold, stay weird, and keep comedy alive.